For years, we've been told that fruit is nature's multivitamin, good for your heart, digestion, and even your skin. But there's something most people don't talk about. Especially as we get older, some fruits that seem healthy on the outside can quietly wear down your heart from the inside, especially after age 60. Let me tell you a story about Mr. Miller, a former neighbor of mine in rural Arkansas. Every morning he had a plate full of fruit, bananas, grapes, watermelon, all the ones he believed were cooling for the liver and good for blood circulation. But not long after, he began feeling tired on his walks. His heart would race and his blood pressure swung unpredictably. After a checkup, his doctor told him his blood sugar and triglycerides were high and he was developing early signs of coronary artery disease. And he had no idea. That colorful fruit plate eaten daily with the best of intentions was silently damaging his blood vessels for years. Does that sound familiar? Maybe you've been eating fruit like this too, thinking you're making a heart-smart choice. But new research shows that for people over 60, certain fruits high in fructose or with a high glycemic index can trigger inflammation, increase bad cholesterol, and weaken blood vessels. A 2021 study from Harvard University found that older adults who ate a lot of sugary fruits had a 35% higher risk of heart disease than those who chose lower sugar, high fiber fruits. What's scarier is that these changes happen quietly. No pain, no obvious symptoms, until one day you feel short of breath, fatigued, or get chest pain. And by then the damage may have been building for years. In this video, I'll walk you through 7 common fruits that older adults should be cautious with, along with heart-smart tips from cardiologists on how to enjoy fruit in a way that's both delicious and safe. If you find this information helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Live Healthy After 50, and turn on notifications so you never miss these down-to-earth health tips. And let me ask you something. What fruits do you eat every day? Have you ever felt unusually tired or uncomfortable afterward? I'd love to hear your experience in the comments below. Number 1, grapes. Grapes are one of those fruits almost everyone loves. Sweet, juicy, refreshing. One bite and you want more. But it's exactly that easy sweetness that makes them risky for the aging heart, and you might not even realize it. Every bunch of grapes, especially seedless or American varieties, contains a hefty dose of fructose, a simple sugar that spikes your triglycerides. And high triglycerides can spell trouble blood fat, build up clogged arteries, blood pressure swings, poor circulation, and ultimately heart strain and even stroke risk. There's a study by the American Heart Association that showed adults over 60 who consume more than 50 grams of fructose a day, roughly a plate of grapes the size of 2 fistfuls, had a 40% higher chance of developing fat deposits around the heart compared to those who consumed less. It's even riskier if you already have diabetes, high cholesterol, or high blood pressure, but still reach for grapes thinking they're heart healthy. Let me share a real story from the hospital where I once interned. Mr. Ronald Hughes, 63, from Missouri, was meticulous about his diet. No smoking, no alcohol. Every morning he did Tai Chi in the park and followed it with a clean fruit plate, banana dragon fruit, and a handful of small purple grapes. He believed it was the perfect breakfast, no need for anything else. But then he started getting winded during walks. His heart would race and his breathing got shallow. At first he chalked it up to aging, but a full checkup revealed early coronary artery disease. His triglycerides were abnormally high. He had a fatty liver, and his blood sugar was all over the place, even though he wasn't eating fatty or fried food. When the doctors traced his diet, they were surprised to find he'd been eating grapes daily for 3 straight years, around 20 to 30 grapes each morning. What he thought was a healthy habit had actually overwhelmed his liver. As we age, our bodies process sugars less efficiently. The liver gets overloaded, and that extra sugar turns into fat, which then builds up in the blood vessels around the heart and even in the liver. Once he understood what was happening, Mr. Hughes switched to lower sugar fruits like grapefruit and guava and cut his portions in half. 3 months later, his triglycerides were down and he felt stronger during physical activity. So the issue isn't whether or not you eat fruit, it's what kind, how much, and when. Grapes can still be part of your diet. They're rich in antioxidants, good for your eyes and skin, but too many, especially at night or as a full meal replacement, can silently damage your heart. Think about it. How many people believe fruit is harmless so they eat as much as they want? But the older we get, the more sensitive our bodies become. Every little choice adds up. Tomorrow morning, if you're reaching for a handful of grapes out of habit, I hope you'll remember Mr. Hughes' story. Because sometimes what we think is helping us is quietly hurting us. Number 2, ripe bananas. Now let's talk about another household staple, bananas. Affordable, easy to eat, and found in almost every American kitchen. Many folks over 50 start their day with a ripe banana, thinking it's good for digestion, rich in potassium, and helpful for blood pressure. That's not wrong, but it's not the whole story either. Ripe bananas, especially when they've got those brown spots, contain a lot of natural sugars, mostly glucose and sucrose. When they get soft, they digest faster and taste sweeter, but that also means they spike blood sugar faster. For younger people with strong insulin response, that's usually fine. But for adults over 50, especially those with prediabetes, weak hearts, or blood pressure medication, that morning banana on an empty stomach can be a hidden risk. According to the University of Sydney, ripe bananas have a glycemic index, GI, of 62 to 70, moderately high. A large banana delivers 20-25 grams of sugar in one go. Your pancreas has to pump out more insulin to manage it. That can stress the heart, leave you feeling tired or jittery, and sometimes cause reactive hypoglycemia, a sudden blood sugar crash. I'll never forget the story of Ms. Linda Evans, a retired school teacher in Florida. She lived alone, followed a vegetarian diet, and took pride in her morning routine: a walk around the block, a glass of warm water, one ripe banana, sometimes a splash of soy milk. To her, it felt like the perfect clean breakfast, no grease, no fuss. But over time, she began feeling odd. After eating her banana, she'd get shaky, anxious, even sweaty down her back. During a full checkup, her fasting glucose was normal, but her post-meal glucose levels were worryingly high. Her EKG also showed occasional arrhythmias after breakfast. When her doctor dug into her habits, they realized the ripe banana on an empty stomach was to blame. With her light frame and slow heart rate, it was like pouring sugar straight into her bloodstream. Her body released a wave of insulin, dropped her sugar too quickly, and left her feeling weak and lightheaded. Repeating this cycle every day only made things worse. Once she understood the pattern, Miss Evans switched things up. Now she starts with a light breakfast, maybe oatmeal with peanut butter or whole grain toast, then eats half a banana afterward. Within 2 weeks, the weakness disappeared and her energy levels improved. At her follow-up visit, her heart and glucose readings were back in balance. Her story is a gentle but powerful reminder: food isn't the enemy misusing, it is. Bananas are full of fiber and potassium, great for digestion. But for older adults, especially those with heart or glucose concerns, eating too many ripe bananas or eating them at the wrong time can silently throw your body off balance. Many people think being vegetarian or eating fruit means they're clean. But an aging body isn't like it was at 25. Every food choice needs to fit your health profile, medication, and routine. One banana isn't bad, but used the wrong way, it could nudge you closer to heart complications or type 2 diabetes. So if you're still in the habit of eating a ripe banana every morning, especially on an empty stomach, I hope this part of the video helps you rethink that. Because sometimes the thing we trust most to keep us healthy is quietly working against our heart. Number 3, watermelon. Let me ask you something. Have you ever eaten something so sweet and refreshing that you felt like it was detoxing your body? But in reality, it was exhausting your heart. Watermelon is one of those deceptively healthy fruits. On a hot day when you're tired, you slice open a chilled, ruby red watermelon, take a bite, and the juice bursts in your mouth, cooling sweet and satisfying. For many older adults, watermelon feels like the perfect natural coolant. It's light, clean, harmless. Or so we think. But here's the truth: watermelon has a very high glycemic index, between 72 and 80. That means even a modest portion can send your blood sugar soaring, especially if you eat it on an empty stomach or with a carb-heavy meal. When your blood sugar spikes like that, your body scrambles to release insulin and bring it back down. That sudden up and down roller coaster isn't just tiring, it's dangerous. If you're over 60 with a weaker heart, slower pancreas, and fragile blood vessels, this fluctuation can overwork your heart, stretch your arteries, and raise your blood pressure, sometimes triggering heart rhythm issues. A 2019 study published in Nutrition Journal found that older adults with prediabetes who ate 2 cups of watermelon after a meal saw their post-meal blood glucose jump by over 30% compared to baseline. And since watermelon also has a mild diuretic effect, eating it in the afternoon or evening can increase nighttime urination, disrupt sleep, and leave your heart feeling even more strained by morning. Let me share the story of Mr. Carl Brooks, a retired cab driver in Kansas City. He lived alone, no spouse or children, and took great pride in managing his own meals. Every summer, he'd stock up on watermelon, cut it into cubes, and keep it in the fridge, eating it throughout the day. One hot day, he even ate half a large watermelon in one sitting. It felt cooling, not filling. At first, there were no problems. But after a few months, he started feeling jittery after eating, slightly dizzy, and his heart would race like he'd had a double espresso. He brushed it off as aging. Then one day, while shopping at the farmer's market, he nearly collapsed. He was rushed to the ER with a blood sugar reading of 240 mdl, blood pressure at 165/95, and an irregular heartbeat. When the doctor asked what he'd eaten, Mr. Brooks replied, puzzled, just watermelon. No cookies or candy. It sounded harmless, but it wasn't. That seemingly innocent daily snack had become a heavy sugar load for an aging body. After he recovered, his doctor advised him to cut back on watermelon, especially on an empty stomach, and switch to lower GI fruits like apples, grapefruits, or guava. He also learned to eat smaller portions and avoid fruit right after a big meal. What started as a feel-good habit turned into a serious wake-up call for Mr. Brooks. Watermelon isn't bad, but for older bodies, where the heart, liver, and pancreas all work more slowly, eating a high-sugar fruit like this too often or at the wrong times can be risky. So if you've been feeling tired after eating watermelon, needing to pee more at night, or noticing your heart race in the afternoon, your body might be reacting to the sugar load. Remember, it's not the sweetness of the watermelon that's dangerous. It's underestimating how much your heart has to work to handle it. Your heart has been beating non-stop for decades. Don't make it work harder just to satisfy a fleeting craving. Number 4, mango. Who doesn't love mangoes? When mango season comes around, the golden, fragrant fruits are hard to resist. Some people prefer them soft and buttery. Others love the syrupy sweetness of varieties like Ataulfo or honey mangoes. But that rich, sugary flavor can quietly place a burden on aging arteries in the heart. A single ripe mango can contain up to 45-50 grams of natural sugar, mostly glucose and sucrose. That's almost the same as 3 teaspoons of table sugar. If you eat it on an empty stomach or as a dessert after a full meal, that sugar heads straight into your bloodstream. And the trouble doesn't end with just high blood sugar. Here's the bigger issue: the sugar in mangoes can trigger low-grade inflammation in the body. When excess sugar combines with proteins in your blood, it creates compounds called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. These molecules accelerate inflammation and damage the inner lining of your blood vessels. At first, these microscopic injuries are painless and invisible, but over time they make your arteries less flexible, increase stiffness, and can eventually lead to high blood pressure, chest pain, and stroke. A study in diabetes care found that people consuming more than 75 calories of natural sugar per day had a 38% higher risk of chronic vascular inflammation, a major contributor to heart disease in older adults. Let me tell you about Ms. Susan Lee, a 60-year-old retired teacher in Tampa. She adored mangoes, especially the golden champagne mangoes. Every day after lunch, she'd treat herself to a sweet, ripe mango, sometimes substituting it for an afternoon snack. She believed mangoes were tropical, rich in fiber, good for digestion and skin health. But after a few months, she started feeling strange. Waking up sluggish, dry throat, slightly blurred vision, occasional tightness in her chest. She thought maybe it was stress or poor sleep. But at her regular checkup, her doctor found elevated CRP, a marker for inflammation, rising cholesterol, and reduced artery elasticity. She was stunned. But I don't eat fatty foods, no alcohol, no fried stuff. I eat fruit. After some digging, the doctor traced the inflammation to her daily mango habit, too much sugar for her body to handle consistently. Since then, Ms. Lee made changes. She still enjoys fruit, but switched to lower sugar options like cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, guava, or green apples. She now saves mangoes for weekends, just a few slices after a meal, never on an empty stomach. Within 2 months, her inflammation markers dropped, her blood pressure stabilized, and she felt more energetic. Her story isn't unusual. Many people over 50 assume that if something is sweet and natural, it must be healthy. But as we age, our metabolism slows, and even fruit needs to be treated like medicine, taken in the right amount at the right time. Mangoes aren't villains unless you eat them every day in large amounts or late in the evening. Then the sugar can overwork your arteries, liver, pancreas, and heart, all for a few moments of sweet satisfaction. Friends, your heart has been beating faithfully for decades. Don't let small pockets of inflammation from that daily mango wear it down in silence. Some damage whispers before it screams. Let's not wait until it's too late. Number 5. Dried fruit. Let's talk about another sneaky culprit: dried fruit. It often sits quietly in your pantry, packed in a small bag, looking innocent. But for aging hearts, it can pack a punch you don't expect. Raisins, dried apricots, banana chips. Many of us snack on these in the afternoon, pack them for a temple visit, or offer them as healthy holiday treats. They seem better than candy or cookies, right? But what we often forget is that dried fruits are concentrated sugar bombs. They contain 3 to 5 times more sugar and calories than fresh fruit, and the fiber is largely stripped away in the drying process. When fruit is dried, the water evaporates and the volume shrinks, but the sugar stays. Sometimes it even becomes more concentrated. A small handful of raisins, light as air, can have up to 25 grams of sugar, the same as a small soda. That sugar hits your bloodstream fast, spikes your insulin, and boosts triglycerides, leading to high cholesterol, weight gain, and extra pressure on your heart. A study from the University of California found that adults over 55 who consumed dried fruit daily had a 21% higher average BMI body mass index than those who stuck with fresh fruit. I once worked with a colleague, Ms. Jane Ningen, in her early 50s, who lived in Virginia. She had acid reflux and couldn't tolerate sour fresh fruits. So to get her vitamins, she switched to dried apricots and raisins, just a few pieces a day, often after lunch or during afternoon work hours. She believed it was a clean, healthy snack, a better option than cakes or cookies. But within 6 months, she noticed belly fat creeping in, felt flushed, and got winded going upstairs. Her annual checkup revealed high triglycerides, borderline hypertension, and mild fatty liver. She was shocked. "I'm vegetarian, no red meat, no alcohol. How can I have high cholesterol?" The answer was in that daily bag of dried fruit she carried. Her doctor explained dried fruit has no water, very little fiber, and extremely concentrated sugar. Once digested, it behaves almost like refined sugar, raising glucose, forcing a strong insulin response, storing fat in the liver and belly, and overloading the heart. After that, Jane stopped eating dried fruit regularly. She switched to fresh, low-sugar fruits like grapefruit, green apples, or even steamed sweet potatoes for snacks. A year later, her cholesterol dropped, her weight stabilized, and her post-meal fatigue disappeared. So remember, dried fruit isn't inherently bad if you eat a few pieces during a holiday or special occasion. But eating it daily as a substitute for fresh fruit or when you're not active is like pouring sugar into your blood and asking your heart to do overtime. Don't let something that looks healthy be the silent reason behind your weight gain, rising blood pressure, or need for daily medication. A raisin or a dried apricot might seem harmless, but if misunderstood, it could be the final drop that tips the scale. Number 6. Canned or syrup-packed fruit. My friends, have you ever walked through the grocery store, seen a bright golden can of fruit soaking in clear syrup, and thought, well, it's still fruit, so it must be just as good as fresh? Especially when the label says things like, all natural fruit retains original flavor or rich in vitamins. It's easy to feel reassured and toss it in the cart. But here's what we often don't realize: inside those sweet slices of canned peaches, syrupy pears, or cocktail fruit cups lies a hidden mix of added sugars and preservatives, quietly making their way into your liver, heart, and kidneys every single day. When fruit is canned, manufacturers usually add refined sugars like glucose or high fructose corn syrup to boost sweetness and keep the colors vibrant. They also use preservatives like sodium, benzoate, potassium, sorbate, and citric acid to extend shelf life. Over time, these substances force your liver to work overtime to detox, put pressure on your heart because of the sugar load, and strain your kidneys as they try to filter these synthetic molecules from your bloodstream. A 2020 report from the World Health Organization found that people over 60 who regularly consumed canned foods containing syrup and preservatives had a 35% higher risk of developing fatty liver, high blood pressure, and reduced kidney function. Let me tell you about Mr. Daniel Owen, 67, a retired factory worker living alone in Georgia. His kids lived out of state, so he took care of his own meals. During grocery trips, he often picked up canned lychees, pineapple rings, or peaches in syrup to enjoy after dinner. They were sweet, convenient, and he thought it's fruit, it's healthy. He kept up this habit for over a year. At first, no issues, but gradually he noticed bloating, poor digestion, restless sleep, and constant thirst. When he finally went in for a checkup, his doctor was shocked: grade 2, fatty liver, declining kidney function, high triglycerides and liver enzymes, nearly 3 times above normal. Confused, he said, "But I don't drink alcohol. I don't eat greasy foods. Why is my liver struggling?" The answer came when they reviewed his diet. Those cans of syrupy fruit had been delivering industrial sugar and chemicals into his system daily. His liver couldn't keep up. Neither could his kidneys. After that wake-up call, Mr. Owens stopped eating canned fruit entirely and switched to fresh seasonal produce, grapefruit, guava, and low-sugar oranges. He also drank warm water with turmeric to support liver health. At his 3-month follow-up, his liver numbers dropped, his energy came back, and he was sleeping through the night again. So yes, canned fruit looks beautiful and it's convenient. But beneath the sweet syrup lies a burden that a body over 50 may no longer be equipped to carry. Our livers, hearts, and kidneys aren't what they were at 30. That means we can't keep taking in these so-called harmless indulgences without consequences. If you've been keeping canned fruit in the pantry because it's soft, easy to chew, or feels healthier than candy, I urge you to think twice. Each spoonful of syrup-packed fruit adds pressure to your liver, heart, and kidneys. Not once, but repeatedly every day. And those organs deserve better care. Number 7, oranges and citrus. When eaten in excess. For as long as we can remember, citrus fruits like oranges and tangerines have been seen as golden gifts from nature. They're known for soothing sore throats, cooling the body, boosting immunity, and helping you recover from colds. Whenever someone in the family is sick, we rush to buy oranges and juice them. But here's something most people overlook. Citrus fruits are only truly helpful when eaten in the right amount at the right time and suited to your body's needs. Otherwise, especially if you have digestive or heart issues, they can backfire. Citrus fruits contain 2 components that can cause trouble if misused: citric acid and fructose. The acid increases stomach acidity and the sugar spikes insulin levels. For younger folks, that's not a big deal. But for those of us over 50 with a thinner stomach lining and less elastic blood vessels, frequent exposure to acid and sugar can create low-grade inflammation in the digestive tract and cardiovascular system. A report from the National Institute of Nutrition found that seniors who ate more than 2 oranges per day for long periods had a 32% higher risk of gastric lining inflammation. And among those taking heart or blood pressure meds, combining citrus fruits with certain drugs doubled their risk of electrolyte imbalance and irregular heart rhythms. Let me share a story. I have an aunt, Miss Clara Reed, 62, who lives in rural Alabama. She had a lingering cold and someone told her, "Drink orange juice every day, it'll help you recover faster." She didn't just drink a glass, she also ate several tangerines and drank lemon honey water each morning. She felt better, so she kept up the routine for nearly 2 months. At first, she slept better and had more energy, but then came strange symptoms: stomach pain in the morning, bloating, acid reflux. One day while shopping at the local store, she felt dizzy. Her heart raced and her hands turned cold. She was rushed to the ER, where tests showed inflamed stomach lining, low potassium, and mild arrhythmia. The doctor explained too much citrus and sugar had eroded her already sensitive stomach lining. The fructose triggered insulin swings, and her blood pressure meds contributed to the electrolyte imbalance, disrupting her heartbeat. What she thought was a simple immune booster turned out to be a threat to her gut and her heart. Since then, Aunt Clara changed her habits. She still eats oranges, but only half at a time, and only after a meal in the morning. In the afternoon, she switches to warm ginger water instead of acidic fruit. Her stomach pain has faded, her digestion has improved, and the heart palpitations are gone. We often believe that because fruit is natural, we can eat as much as we want. But nature has limits too. 1 orange can be a powerful ally, but 3 a day plus tangerines and lemon water is a full-on acid storm your stomach and heart might not withstand. Especially if you're on medications for heart disease, diabetes, or have a history of ulcers. Too much citrus can cause silent damage, imbalances, and gut inflammation without any warning signs. So eat citrus like you would take a supplement, small doses at the right time, and always listen to your body, because not everything healthy is good in large amounts. And sometimes what cools your throat may slowly burn through your stomach or heart without you noticing. Not every fruit is a miracle food, especially as we age and our digestion and cardiovascular systems become more sensitive. Fruits that seem harmless may quietly raise blood sugar, trigger inflammation, or damage blood vessels if we eat too much at the wrong time or as a substitute for real meals. So instead of eating by habit, I encourage you to choose fruits that are low on the glycemic index, like avocados, green apples, or blueberries. And whenever possible, pair them with a little fiber or protein to slow sugar absorption. Most importantly, listen to your body. If a certain fruit makes you feel tired, bloated, drowsy, or anxious afterward, take that as a sign to adjust. Your heart has worked faithfully for decades for your family, your work, your loved ones. Now's the time to repay it. Let's stop overloading it with healthy foods that may be doing harm. If this video helped you, please give it a like, subscribe to Live Healthy After 50, and tell me in the comments what kind of fruit do you eat most days. Let's keep each other healthy and wise one bite at a time.